What's up, guys? Reapshow here. So today I wanted to do a Halloween franchise ranking. Now, Halloween is my favorite horror franchise. Myers is my favorite horror icon. To the point where I have two different Halloween collections. One strictly for watching. The other is pretty much for displaying. And a quick little sidebar on the collection. This is an incredible collection. I mean, the fact that we got all of the Halloween films in a collection is honestly incredible. And I don't really believe it's ever going to happen, again, which is kind of why I have two. Because I want one strictly, I don't really even want to use it. I just want to display it so it doesn't get beat up. Like I said, love this franchise. This is by far my favorite horror franchise. Let's get this started here. So, bottom of the barrel, Halloween Resurrection. Now, I wouldn't say I necessarily hate Resurrection, but I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. It's not a film I really go back to other than when I watch it every year. I'm going to watch Resurrection. It's in the franchise. I just don't really like any of the characters in the film. The Myers portrayal in Resurrection is strange. The actor Brad Loree portrayed him. I don't love the way he moves. He's kind of slow. I don't like what he's doing with his arms. It's almost like he's got his arms kind of like too far apart. I don't really love that choice. The mask is very cosplay. It's really, the features are really dark on it. It's like, it's more accurate than the H2O mask to the original mask, but I just don't love the dark features on it. One thing I do really enjoy is I like the Myers house design. Now, I know that was built on a soundstage, but I think it looks really good, honestly. Dangertainment and Busta Rhymes and it doesn't really work. The gore's really not that great, when Myers chops that girl's head off, that's fun, but it doesn't really look that great, honestly, in my opinion. It's, like I said, I try every time to get back into it to see if there's something I missed or if I'm going to take something else away from it. I just don't really, there's some interesting shots, I'd say. There's a shot of Myers peering through the window and you kind of just see his eye. I think that looks pretty cool and creepy. And there's some other death scenes that are cool and interesting, but like I said, overall, the disposal of Loree and just the way they killed her off. I know that she wanted to die and she was basically contractually obligated to do this film, but she didn't really want to do it, so she just said, kill me off as soon as possible. But that's not really narratively interesting, especially the way they did it, and it just feels like after he kills her, he's kind of aimlessly, he just goes back home and kills these kids. I don't know, it just doesn't feel really like it's got a solid direction to it. So that being said, that is why it is at the bottom of the barrel for me. You'll have to excuse me, I'm reading off of my Letterboxd list here. So that is number 13. Number 12, Halloween 5. Now, the last time I watched Halloween 5, which was this past October, because I watch it every year, I did enjoy it a lot more than I have in the past. It's a film that is really weird to me, where I always feel like I'm going to enjoy it way more than I do. And there's a lot of reasons for that, you know, like the characters are pretty thoroughly unlikable. I don't love what they do with Jamie. I don't love that they make her mute, you know. There's so many angles you could have taken with the ending of 4, where that, you know, I mean, look at what they did with Corey. I think there's some things they could have done there that would have actually been interesting instead of kind of, I don't know. It's just the direction they take is you basically hobble like one of the best parts of this new cast of characters with Danielle Harris, and then you get Rachel in there, and she's basically so she's mute in the film for most of it. We'll get there. That really, you know, hurts it in my opinion. And then you get Billy, who is just, he's got a speech impediment. So the scenes with the two of them, it's like one is mute, one can barely talk. What was the decision making there? Now, Dominique Othinian-Girard, I think I'm pronouncing that right, I'm not sure, directed this, and he's a unique director. He did Omen 4, The Awakening, which I actually enjoy. I know it's bad, but it is so damn entertaining that you cannot help, at least I cannot help but enjoy it. But that's a film, that's a discussion for another time with the Omen franchise. This, right now we're talking Halloween 5. Now 5, this is where things get really convoluted. I do really enjoy the new inclusion of Dr. Death Scene in the new Scream Factory 4K. I think that's cool. It feels more defined and in line with the film. The mask just kills me. I mean, you know how long it is. It's like, why isn't it tucked in? Why is the hair so long? You know. And also, you know, Myers basically swimming down a stream. I mean, we're coming right off the heels of 4, where it's like, okay, they blow up this mine shaft, he gets out, then he swims down a river, right? And the mask is so drastically different than 4, where I've heard like theories of like, oh, the water like warped it or whatever, and it's like, well, did it make his hair grow too? It's a fun thing, because it's like, I know that the directors and stuff didn't really put a whole lot of thought into like that kind of continuity. I mean, we're living in a different time where it's like we live with these films, and depending on how big your love is for them, we're able to watch them whenever we want. So we can really look at the details and see things. And back then, it was more like you'd see it in theaters, and that was it for a while. Okay, it came out on VHS, but VHSs were extremely expensive back in the day. So not everybody bought a VHS of the film. So the attention to detail was not quite there, right? Also, as he gets up, you know, you see like the wetsuit through his jumpsuit. I think that's kind of funny, right? You know, if you think too much about certain things, it's gonna be goofy. Like, okay, so Myers was essentially comatose for a year in this like shack with this guy. It's like, okay, how did he eat? How did he go to the bathroom? You can't really ask these questions. Also, that doesn't bother me too much, because I kind of look at Myers as more of like an entity that doesn't really abide by our rules, essentially. So I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't really. I know that he eats dogs, but it's like you can't think too much about these details. You can, but it'll 100% ruin the film for you. So, a lot of disjointed moments within it. I mean, the Keystone Cops always makes me laugh, you know. The ending and just, you know, when they kill Rachel, you know, I think that was really stupid. I mean, it's like, she was so great in 4, and she's really good in 5 too. But they kill her off, and it's like we're stuck with Tina, who is unbearable. I mean, there's moments I enjoy her in, like, her naturalism is definitely interesting. Like, when they're basically gonna have to escort her to the Tower Farm, right? And she says, you know, I'm not sensible, only if I can try. However, she says it feels very natural, and it feels like she's just a nervous teenager trying to, like, live her life. There's just so many unbearable qualities to her. And the cast, they're just full. A lot of them are very stereotypical, and just kind of one note, and that's just not very interesting to me. But overall, I do have fun with it. I don't hate it. Just because it's number 12 doesn't necessarily mean I hate it. It's just not one of my favorites. And also, you know, some of the gore could have been better. I'll tell you what, the laundry chute scene is incredible. You know, but the overall design of the Myers house is insane. It's like, I know that the guy wanted to have more of a Victorian style house, but that's just not the Myers house. So, like, why are you gonna get this, like, big castle version of the house when that's not the house? So, you know, I don't get that. Loomis is out of his mind in this movie, and I appreciate that, because it's like, I feel like that's naturally where the character would go. He's been, like, hunting Myers for years, and it's like, he's kind of at the point where he's just willing to do whatever it takes to kill this character. He's just willing to go to the lengths he's got to go to. I mean, he's basically, like, harassing Jamie. He's just, like, hanging around the hospital. It's like, why are you letting this guy in here? He's clearly delusional and insane based on this obsession to catch Myers. So, all that being said, I do enjoy it. It's not one of my favorites, but I love coming back to it every year. So, that is where Halloween 5 sits right now. Can always come up. Currently, that's where it sits now. A film that has come up in my rankings, number 11, Rob Zombie's Halloween, 2007. I got some takes on this film. I've enjoyed it more and more over the years. When it first came out, I really didn't like it. It wasn't how I envisioned Michael Myers being portrayed. You know, they take a different angle with this film where essentially he's more human. He feels more of a psychopath, less of like an entity, and that's an interesting take, and I respect that they took that approach. You know, the kid that plays him in the beginning, not that he's bad, he does a solid job. I don't know, I just don't love the choice that they you know, I just don't really like, he just doesn't fit how I envision Myers. And that's not the actor's fault, it's really kind of the story, because it's like, he's pretty much like portrayed as trailer trash, and I just never found that to be creepy, because it's so obvious that this kid is gonna become some kind of maniac here based on his upbringing. You know, with the original, he was so unassuming that it was scary in my opinion. And it's so obvious in this film, and obviously we know where it's going to go because it's a remake. I do like the design of the mask. I like the deterioration of it. I think Tyler Mane is incredible. I actually got his autograph in one of the cons that I went to this past year in Pennsylvania. So I got his autograph on the 2007 poster and then on the 2009 poster as well. So his Myers is by far probably the most intimidating and just physically imposing. How he grew to this like tower of a man and he got these like jacked up muscles. I mean, they gotta have like a top tier gym in Smith's Gross, man, because he is jacked beyond belief. And this film is gory as fuck. I mean, I love the gore in this film. The drawback would be it's some of the characters are just so damn unlikable that it's like hard to really get behind anybody, because they're all, I mean, the whole film, it feels like everybody's just yelling at each other, swearing at each other, and it's just not compelling to me. It's interesting, but I wouldn't say it's really compelling. It's just kind of annoying. I do have fun with Ronnie's character. I love William Forsythe, honestly. I mean, I got his autograph as well. Love him in Out for Justice. He's such a cool character actor. He's been in so many different kinds of films, from Deuce Bigalow to Out for Justice with Steven Seagal to Halloween and Devil's Rejects. I mean, the dude can do anything, so mad respect for him. He's such a piece of work in this movie. I mean, and he gets his, honestly, but I have grown to appreciate it more and more. It does feel like a tale of two halves, where you got the origin story and then it gets into kind of the retread of the original, which I do enjoy. There's some moments that are really scary. When Myers is just watching TV, while one of the characters is sitting there, they don't know. Lindsay Wallace is sitting there, and he's like right behind her. She doesn't even realize. I think that's pretty haunting. And I like that Danielle Harris is back. I think that she, really should have been in 6, and we'll get there. But it's great to see her again. I think she does a great job. Scout Taylor Compton's fun. I really like her. I really liked her in A Creature Was Stirring recently. I enjoy her in the film. I think she does a nice job. She can be pretty damn unlikable sometimes, and she does a nice job at it. It's just kind of hard to kind of get behind her entirely, but I think she does a nice job, and I do enjoy her portrayal of Lori. It's just a different type of portrayal, and this is just a reinterpretation of this material, so that's why I'm able to look at it a little more as its own thing, not necessarily an extension of what we know Halloween to be. So, there was a time where this was probably dead last. I really hated this film at one point, but now I've grown to appreciate it a lot more. So, as of right now, it is at 11. Now, number 10 is a wild ride. Halloween 2, 2009. Now, this is the film that Zombie really got free reign to be able to do what he wanted to do. And I like the direction they take. I really love the original approach that they have with Halloween 2, because they kind of just gave him a shot to be able to just do what he wanted to do. Now, sorry, does all of it work? No. definitely does not. But really respect the fact that they swung for the fences and tried something different. Now, the beginning of the film is a retread, but it turns out to be a dream. I think that's great. Now, I think that I would have liked to see a film that just was a retread of 2, but I like that this was a fresh new take on the character, on the lore, kind of trying to expand on it, doing something different. I like that you see part of his face, behind the mask from after Laurie shot him in the previous film. So I really enjoy the design of the mask. I like that he's not really in the jumpsuit. He's kind of in he's got like a jacket on, and there's a hood, and he's just he's just wandering the earth. I really enjoy that kind of approach. Sherry Moon Zombie's back, in these dreamlike hallucinatory sequences. It's interesting. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I think it's nice that it's there because they're just going for broke with just doing something different with this film. They recast young Myers, and I honestly think the kid's a little better. I don't know. I kind of like him a little more than the kid in the previous film, So 2 has really risen in my rankings. I don't think it's ever gonna. It's never gonna crack top 5 for me. I kind of amend what I said before. This would have been bottom of the barrel at one point. This would have been past Halloween 2007. I absolutely hated this film when I first saw it. I mean, the sequence where they hit that cow and they say fuck like 27 times was just absolutely ridiculous. The fact that when Myers is stabbing that nurse and you can hear him like grunting, that pissed me off. I'm like, why is Myers talking? He talks in the end, at least in the director's cut. Which is hard to find the theatrical cut. I don't know if there's a release that has it now, but in this collection, it's really just just the director's cut. So I really would like to see that different ending. So that being said, 2 it's really kind of risen in my rankings. It's kind of creeped up there a little bit. Like I said, if you would have asked me when I first saw it, it would have been my most hated in the franchise. So, that being said, Halloween 2, number 10. Now, number 9. This is a unique entry in the franchise. It is an entry that I have such mixed feelings on. There's a lot about it that I enjoy. There's several moments that I do not enjoy, and that is Halloween Kills. Now, really love the look of Myers in this film. I love how brutal he is, but that kind of ties into my complaints where Myers is so much more effective when he's of the elements and he's not front and center. When he's front and center, that's weird for me. It doesn't feel like Michael Myers. It feels like Jason. He should not be front and center. He should not be fighting an army of firemen. Now you can say, oh, he did it in 4. Well, we didn't see that, right? So it kind of works a little better when you don't actually see it. Now the sequence is awesome. Just tearing through the firemen. I think that's visually incredible, but doesn't really work for Michael Myers in my opinion. That's not really what Myers is. He does not tend to be front and center, and there's reasons for that. Now, the biggest reason is because he's not entirely human or supernatural. He's both, so he's susceptible to attacks. He's really not like a Jason, where Jason can just be front and center and just tear through an army of firemen, and that's normal for him. But Myers, And that's kind of where we get into we'll get to ends. Spoiler alert, I love ends, so if that turns you off, whatever. So back to Halloween Kills. Now, like I said, he's not entirely human, he's not entirely supernatural, he's both. And so because he's both, he is not eternal. He can be killed. He just kind of rides that line. And so this one, they lean too hard on the supernatural side, and that's kind of what pulls it down for me. The hospital sequence I absolutely hate. I hate the whole Evil Dies Tonight. I don't like the portrayal of Tommy in this film. He's out of his mind. I mean, he basically incites everyone to just lose their minds. And, you can also say, you can poke holes in the whole, how did they not know that was Michael Myers? This guy's like Humpty Dumpty. He's doesn't even visually look even close to Myers. It's like, true. Would they really know what he looks like? I don't know. Maybe they would know. Do they really post, pictures? Do people really have pictures in Haddonfield of Michael Myers' face? I don't know. Do they all know how tall he is? He really only killed 5 people, and then in the original, if you count 2018, he killed more people, obviously, but I don't know how famous he would be in Haddonfield. I really don't know, so it's a interesting plot point, but I just don't think it works. I think it's unnecessary. I think they were trying to say something, and it's like, this is a Halloween film. We don't need to say something, And if you are going to say something, have it be less, more subtle and less beating us over the head with this message of, it's a muddled message too. It's like they're trying to say mob mentality is bad, but, ultimately it's like it doesn't really kind of commit to it. So it just kind of leaves it a little muddy in my opinion. Like I said, it's just, I really love the gore and violence. I'm a slasher guy, so I absolutely love the gore in this film. But it just doesn't fit Myers. It doesn't fit a Halloween film. It doesn't even really fit what they kind of sort of set up in 2018, in my opinion. So that's kind of why it's not higher. I do like it. I like the ending. I like that I love the flashback scenes. Those are absolutely incredible. I like that they just kind of reduce it to he's just looking at himself in the mirror and he's just enamored with the evil. And it's almost just reflecting back to him. He's just staring at it. I think that's a really cool approach that they took with the character. Laurie's portrayal in 2018 in Kills is not my favorite. I don't love the whole hell-bent Sarah Connor, Laurie Strode. I don't think that that's my favorite version of her. We'll get to my favorite version of her, but that is not my favorite version of her. That being said, I think she does a nice job in it. She's just barely in the film. Hawkins surviving Sartain's attack. Don't know if I really buy it, but I like Hawkins enough. They just don't really give him a whole lot to work with, so it's just kind of like, would have liked to see more development with him. You get more down the road, which I think is good and it helps. But as of Halloween Kills, I just don't think there's a whole lot of character to it. So, number 8, H2O. Now, I know a lot of fans love this entry. It's never been my favorite. It's just never been my favorite. I don't hate it, but I don't really love it. And it's not just the masks. It doesn't really feel like a Halloween film. It feels more like a Scream film. They're not in Haddonfield, they're in California. And I know that Haddonfield's actually in California, like the actual, like, in the first film, they shot it in California. It's supposed to be Illinois, right? You see palm trees in the back, obviously. So I get that, but I don't know. It just doesn't really entirely work for me. I like Laurie's portrayal, or I like Jamie Lee Curtis's portrayal of Laurie in this film. I think I enjoy this version of her a lot more than the 2018 and Kills version. We'll get to Halloween Ends. I really enjoy this version of her. I think she's strong, but it's not hindering her life, and she's able to like function. It's just around Halloween that she gets a little bit weird, and she is a little bit overprotective of her kid, but who wouldn't be when your brother's a serial killer? So, the mask situation is ridiculous. I mean, one of the first scenes of Myers has the mask from 6, and they should have just stuck with that, because the debacle of the mask situation is absolutely insane in this film. The one that the K&B mask, I'm pretty sure is what it is. The one that just looks absolutely terrible. Is used in like long shots because it would have been so expensive to reshoot the whole film entirely, but that mask is terrible. The one that they use prominently is okay. It's just his eyes are so wide that he looks surprised the whole movie, and it's just like looks ridiculous. The CGI mask is ridiculous. Can't believe they did that. Like, that's another one of those head-scratching moments in this franchise where it's like, you couldn't have just grabbed the mask and shot the scene again. Maybe they ran out of money, maybe they ran out of time. I don't know. I feel like there's a way around it without a CGI mask, because it looks horrendous. And it just doesn't, like I said, the portrayal of Myers is, I'm mixed on. He looks so young for how old he's supposed to be. Like, he does not look like he's in his 50s or 60s or 40s or whatever they're supposed to be portraying him as. He looks more like he's in his like late 20s, early 30s visually. And so it always was weird for me. And like I said, they follow 1 and 2. So that's the storyline for this. And it's a fun film. I think it is a satisfying conclusion. I love the fact that Laurie just chops his head off. I think that's awesome. And they like retcon that in Resurrection, but I don't really I am able to look at H2O on its own and not really be distracted by Resurrection. So like I said, I like H2O. I just don't love it. It's not one of my favorites. It's very blah, middle of the road for me. So that is where H2O currently is. Moving on to number 7. Now, this film has kind of gone up and down my rankings. When I first saw it, I was not crazy on it. I didn't hate it the way a lot of people did, but I wasn't really entirely enamored with it, and that's Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Now, this film has gotten a recent reappraisal where a lot of people are looking at it again, enjoying it for what it is, and not really, able to separate themselves from the Halloween franchise, which is great. I really enjoy Halloween 3. I think it's a fun Halloween film. I have a ton of fun with it. I really enjoy it. Tom Atkins is the man, so the fact that he's in it is a major plus. Storyline is really creepy, Connell Cochran is love that whole angle. I like that Halloween is playing in the background in one of the scenes. It does drag a bit, and it can be a little boring at times. So that's the only reason it's not higher for me. But I do really enjoy Halloween 3, and it's always been up there in my rankings. Right now, it's kind of mid-tier for me. I wouldn't say it's like the best Halloween sequel, which is a popular opinion, but I do really enjoy it. So, like I said, love it. There's some Halloween films in here that I love even more. So, getting to number 6, fittingly, Halloween 6, The Origin of Michael Myers, or Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, or Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. Not the only film in the franchise that's had a strange title. I mean, you get Halloween 5, where the title card just says Halloween 5, doesn't say Revenge of Michael Myers on it, which is always weird to me. 6, I've always loved 6. It's one of the first Halloween films I watched. I used to go rent these films during the month of Halloween, and 1, 4, 5, H2O, those were all always like rented, and it was usually like 2 for some reason. 2 was always available, and 6. So I grew up on 6, and I watched this movie a lot, and I like the theatrical cut and the producer's cut. I think they both have things in it that I like and things that I don't. So kind of a master cut that just could marry the two is really where I think that it would be like the perfect cut. Then there's still things in it that don't entirely work. Love the mask. This is one of the scariest versions of Myers, in my opinion. You get George P. Wilbur here again playing the Shape. I think he does an incredible job. Love the family, like the angle of not having the whole cast be young kids. I like that get some older characters in here like John Strode. Love the family dynamic in this film. It feels lived in, and the characters really, I love all the characters in this film. It feels like autumn. It feels like Halloween in this film, which, honestly, there's only a couple films in this franchise that I would say feel like Halloween. This is one of them. Probably feels like Halloween the most. We'll get to 4, but I mean, I really like the visual aesthetic in this film. Such a shame that we lost Donald Pleasance during the filming of this. It really kind of holds it back a little bit, in my opinion. The fact that they had to kind of rush it at the end. And also they're kind of hamstrung with the Thorn storyline that was set up in a little bit in 4, but mostly 5, right? It was set up. It wasn't even, there was no direction. The Man in Black and the Thorn tattoo, and there was a lot of ideas and places they thought it might go, but there was no definitive place that, they didn't map this thing out. So, that being said, it was kind of on, the director here to, Daniel Farrens wrote it. Joe Chappelle did some of the directing. Let's see here. You get Daniel Farrens and Joe Chappelle directed it. Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was like because I know that they fired Joe Chappelle at one time, and then they like rehired him again because they couldn't find anybody to take his place, which is like wild to me how they could like do something so like insane like that. when you're like basically almost finished filming a film and you fire the director, it's like, what? So, you know, that's Dimension for you. So I'm not going to get too much into that here, but I really love Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. It's one of my favorites in the franchise. You know, really like the producer's cut. Some of the kills are more tame, but they work thematically better. It's more in line with, you know, the original idea of Myers. But that being said, I love the carnage. I love the gore of the theatrical cut. So I like that we kind of have both that we can kind of go back to. You know, like the head, you know, John Strode's head exploding. It's great, right? The you know, Myers rampage in the hospital. It's great. You know, you get a different version of Myers in that scene because that was an entire reshoot, basically, to kind of nix the whole cult angle. You know, with the producer's cut, the ending makes more sense, but it's not that satisfying because it's like Myers standing in a circle of stones, these ruins here. It's interesting. It's not that scary. And that's my complaint, right? But it makes more sense. You know, the ending in the theatrical cut where it's just confusing. It's like, what happened there? You know, Myers is bleeding green ooze. And so he's like shooting him up with these like syringes, right? So is that like what's coming out of his eye? I don't know what that was all about. I think they were just kind of throwing shit at the wall and just seeing what's going to stick, right? But this is one of those kind of black sheep of the franchise that I've always loved. So, you know, it's always going to be up there for me. Now, right above that at 5 is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. This is such a good entry in the franchise, you know. I've always loved this poster, just the you know, of Myers' face. Oddly enough, that's not the mask that's really used in the film. So, always thought that was funny, you know, that they didn't even really get the mask right there. I've never understood why the mask situation is such a common thing in this franchise. It's like, why is it so hard to get the mask right? I mean, they finally figured it out by the Rob Zombie films, and then obviously the David Gordon Green trilogy here. But man, I mean, these early sequels, they just could not get the mask right. It was always like, what is this? This is not Myers, right? Dwight Little directed it. Did Marked for Death with Steven Seagal, which is a really good Seagal film, you know, during Seagal's heyday. So, like, he really knew how to direct an action scene, and it shows here, you know. This film, like, tone-wise, is absolutely incredible. It does feel like Halloween. It really feels in line with the second one. Love the bandage kill where he's got the bandage and he kills the mechanic, and then, you know, you see Loomis, you know, basically talking to Myers, and then he shoots at him, and then he's gone, right? So I thought that was great. Should have just kept the bandages on, you know. It's a pretty popular opinion. The mask has always pissed me off. I hate the fucking mask in this movie. Over the years, I've softened on it because what makes it a little scary now for me is it's like, okay, he clearly lost his original mask in the fire, right? So he just picks up a random mask, and just thinking about what's underneath that, like his face has got to be charred. He's got to just look creepy as fuck, right? So the idea that this like goofy mask is over this like freaky looking face, you know, the face of evil, right? That's kind of cool, okay? But that mask is just bad. There's a couple good shots of it. There's a couple moments that I like, but one of them is definitely not the pink blonde mask that appears, right? Apparently, it's when he basically throws Loomis out the window when they're in the school, and he's got a pink blonde mask, which I don't know how on earth that happened. I mean, apparently half of the staff went and got food or something, and I don't know if this was a skeleton crew they had to get this scene filmed, and for some reason all they had was this mask, so they're just whatever, just get it filmed. And I'm just what? You can't tell me that you filmed that and then after you were done they looked at it and were oh yeah, that's fine, let's just keep it in the film. No. It's absolutely horrible. But it is what it is. It's still a great movie. Over the years I've softened on the mask. Like I said, it doesn't bug me as much. I still enjoy it. At the end of the day, it's up there. There's some great scenes. I love when he kills Brady and snaps his freaking neck. Ellie Cornell is great in it, obviously, and then you get Daniel Harris, who plays Jamie. The whole idea of Myers after his niece, that's a cool angle. And then the ending obviously is just iconic. Could have gone so many cool places, and we'll kind of get to where they actually succeed in a later entry on that type of story, in my opinion at least, right? So Halloween 4, almost said Halloween 5, definitely not 5, but Halloween 4 is at number 5 for me. Definitely up there. Now, number 4. This is an interesting film. General audiences really enjoyed it. A lot of hardcore fans did not, and a lot of critics were kind of middling on it. And we're talking Halloween 2018. Now, there's things in this film that I think they absolutely nail, right? There's things they don't. One of which is the title of the film is just Halloween. I think that's absolutely unacceptable. To call it the name of the original film, but have it be a sequel to the original film is kind of annoying, because it's when I say I'm watching Halloween, what does that mean? Am I watching 78? Am I watching 2007? Or am I watching 2018? I mean, it's I gotta say I'm watching Halloween 2007, Halloween 20. Now, Halloween 2007 is a remake, so that makes sense. This is a legacy sequel, so it's you shouldn't call it just the name of the film it's a sequel to, right? They should have stuck with the original title, which was Halloween Returns. That's cool. That works. It's probably one of the best titles of this new trilogy that would have, potential titles, because I think Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends are really stupid titles, honestly. So, they should have called this Halloween Returns. Now, getting into the film, really like the mask. The opening is cool. When I first saw it in theaters, I thought the pumpkin looked really fake. Watching it now, it doesn't really bug me as much. I think it looks okay. It's not distracting, as distracting as it was for me. I like that I think it's interesting that he's in back in Smith's Grove. I think that ruined the mystique of Myers for some people. For me, it didn't as much. Some people say, so what? They just caught him around the corner, and that's what we find out in Halloween Kills, right? But it's in my opinion, it doesn't bug me, because I look at Myers' evil almost as something that is, it awakens and then it goes dormant for an undisclosed period of time. There's no real logic to it. When it comes out with a vengeance, right? but then he basically goes back dormant, and he's essentially like a vegetable, right? So that didn't bug me really too much, like, so, I know some people have gripes with that, but it doesn't really bother me. The fact that he kills a kid in the beginning, for me, it's almost like the kid's in his way. Like he's trying to steal this car, and I like that he drives a car. I think that's great. They kind of get away from that in a lot of the films, where it's like, you can drive. I don't know where he learned, but I guess evil knows how to drive. So I think that's kind of cool. Love him killing the podcasters. I think that's great. Laurie is too much like Sarah Connor in this one, where it's just like, would have liked her to be a little more reserved. I mean, she's basically just consumed by this. I think it's interesting, but it's still not my favorite version of her. I think she does a nice job though, but it's still not thematically what I want from Laurie Strode. Andy Madenchek, that plays, our new, Allison, obviously, right? So I like her. I think she really blossoms in Halloween Ends, but I think she's fun. I would have liked her to kind of have more of a moment, but I do like that all the Strode women come together and sort of defeat Michael, right? Basically, they trap him in the basement, obviously, and there's some moments in this film that really feel like Myers is a terrifying presence, where basically, they're transporting him, and you're actually getting Loomis again, and it sounds enough like him, and Laurie's just traumatized about the whole experience, and I really think that it works. Love the one-track shot. I know it's not exactly a one-track shot, but I really like that us following Michael down that alleyway. I think that's great. The kills are brutal, but it does feel like the way he kills these people does feel like the way Myers would kill people. He's very specific, but he doesn't linger, but he creeps. He really likes to soak in the fear and play with his victims. Like the kid that played Julian, I think he's funny. There's only really one sequence that bothers me with him, and it's when Myers is in the closet and he comes out and the kid says, "Oh shit," and it's like totally ruins the scare, right? Also, I think that was flawed, because it's like right away when she opens the closet door, he's there, and it's like, okay, that's kind of a jump scare, right? Which is good, and I think it works. What would have been more effective is if the light was off and she goes to turn the light on and he's there. I think that would have really taken it to another level, in my opinion. But like I said, I enjoy this film. It's very The Force Awakens of the Halloween franchise. The David Gordon Green is very of that new Star Wars trilogy, and we're gonna get to Halloween Ends here pretty soon. So 2018, I enjoy it. Is it perfect? No, but it is very enjoyable and watchable for me. So that is why it is up in the top 4 for me. Number 3, which is always been one of my favorite sequels. It's bounced around a little bit for me, but right now it's at number 3, and I'm talking about Halloween 2. Rick Rosenthal, who also directed Resurrection, which is insane to me. One of the best sequels, one of the worst sequels. It's like, what? But, some have said Carpenter kind of ghost directed this. I don't know if I really believe that. I know that he helped, but I don't really believe that he ghost directed it. I think that Rosenthal did a great job with this film. Really like Dick Warlock, his portrayal of Myers. He's definitely top tier Myers for me. He's a different Myers. He's very embracing the evil. I love how he just feels more evil and brutal in this film. I love the shot of him coming through the glass sliding doors in the hospital. Love that this is a direct continuation of the original. Same night. I think that that's a great choice. Not too many horror sequels that, you know, back in 81 that took place the second the first one ended. Usually it's, you know, a year or, you know, an undisclosed amount of time. But this has always been top tier for me, Halloween 2. It's one of my most watched films in the franchise. You know, I rented it a lot, like I said, because it was one of the ones that people historically didn't rent, which is just kind of weird to me. But Dick Warlock does a great job. I think Laurie's good. She's just comatose almost the whole film, right? The gore is much better, or not, it's not better, it's just ramped up is what I meant to say, right? So it's like, you know, Halloween inspired Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th inspired Halloween 2. It's kind of an interesting parallel, you know? But I think the gore works here. I really enjoy it. It's heightened enough to where it's like, sometimes it's like, how would Michael know that? Like the syringe, it's like, how does he know that? I don't know if I buy that, but I like it. I have fun with it. You know, I just love the world building of Haddonfield in this film, just the lived-in feeling of it. You know, it really feels very natural. You know, that's why it's always been top tier for me. So that is why it is number 3 for me. Number 2 is a film that is insanely divisive. A lot of people hate it. A lot of people love it. It's very polarizing, and that is Halloween Ends. I love this film. It's, you know, one of the reasons why I own a couple copies of it. I think this is an awesome steelbook here, you know, and I have the steelbook trilogy of the new Gordon Green Halloween universe. This is the first sequel where they were able to expand on Myers' lore without ruining it, in my opinion. And I couldn't believe it when I was watching it, that they were actually able to semi-move away from Michael in a way that was like satisfying, which I couldn't believe. Love Corey in this film. Love the way, I love the way Jamie Lee Curtis plays Laurie with this naturalism of she's not going to be held back by her trauma, but she's also learned from it and applied it to who she is. So it felt more in line with the Laurie we knew from 1, right? Where she's not hell-bent on killing Myers, and she's basically like Linda Hamilton, right? That just never felt natural to me. So I love the direction they take with Laurie. You know, and basically just the direction they take with this film, where it's been years since Halloween Kills. You know, they saw the reception of Kills. They knew they needed to, like, kind of do something different. And the direction they take is so amazing for me, in my opinion. I love the fact that Myers is back in the shadows. One of the first scenes we see him in, where he drags Corey into the sewer, you gotta look at it quick, but there's a shot of him in the corner of like the frame where it's like quick, so quick you blink, you'll miss it. That was so good. I love that he's just basically like in this sewer. He's been kind of like sequestered in this like sewer because he's like weak from the events of Halloween Kills. And they pretty much, you know, a lot of people can say, how did he go from you know, massacring a fleet of firemen, right, to Old Man Myers in a sewer, right? And it's an interesting thing to say, but, you know, my response to that would just be, again, he's not entirely human. He's not entirely supernatural. So, yes, he was able to push the boundaries of his supernatural abilities far, right? But it came at a price because he has to adhere to the boundaries of, you know, what a human being is, where he can't, he's not Jason. So yes, he can push those boundaries far, but if he pushes them too far, it's gonna cost him. You know, the evil basically has hollowed him out. I love the opening with the pumpkins. Then he got the blank slate pumpkin, which is essentially symbolizing Corey. You know, I kind of look at Myers as when he was a young kid, he was essentially consumed by this evil in some capacity. So he was, the analogy of the pumpkin is great, where he was like a pumpkin, right? He's been hollowed out by this evil that has consumed him, to the point where there's nothing left. He's just embodied by this evil, and that is what drives him, right? And it gives him these supernatural abilities. And killing kind of helps sustain that, apparently, right? Really like what they did with Corey, you know? And I couldn't, like, I got wind of what they were gonna do with Halloween Ends, and I was like, that is insane. Like, that's not gonna work. I've seen Jason Goes to Hell. They tried doing that. Didn't work for most people, right? So you kind of do this whole body swapping thing. Like, that's what I thought it was gonna be. And I was like, no, like, that's not gonna work. I want just Myers, right? You get Corey, and he fits Myers. Like, he fits the new shape where there's certain things Myers can't do because he never learned that ever, right? Where it's like, there's certain ways he has to kind of kill people, you know, but Corey, lighting up that blowtorch works because he was like a mechanic. So it makes sense that he can like kill people that way. And I think that's kind of interesting. His kills are so brutal. Love the relationship that him and Allison have. It feels very natural. Allison's great in this film. I think they really give her a lot more to chew on. You know, and a lot of what makes this film great for me is that they've really scaled down the characters to where you can spend time with your core people, instead of like all these extra characters that are just fodder that really aren't developed, right? So Halloween Ends is, like I said, they expand on his lore without even explaining it. It's like exactly what they did with the original, where you have this undefined evil that is very interesting the less you explain it. But what Ends did is they expanded on it without explaining it even further, you know? They let your mind kind of fill in the blanks. I don't love that they definitively kill Myers. I also hate that they kill Corey, or that he kills himself essentially, because he could have brought in the next Myers, right? But there is a caveat, right? Allison and Corey did have sex, so they could potentially have a kid they could restart everything with the kid, right? A kill where Corey and Myers are killing the doctor and the nurse is so great. The soundtrack is also amazing. Like, I love that they both are essentially after this evil, and the evil is almost akin to like the Ring and Lord of the Rings, where it's like they both covet it and they're kind of fighting for it, and it's kind of like a game of like cat and mouse, where they're both after the same thing, but they also mutually need each other, essentially. I think that's a really interesting angle. It's like Myers is tolerating him because he can't do this on his own, because he's so beaten down from the events of Halloween Kills, and I guess 2018 as well, that he just can't do it on his own, so he's kind of using Corey and like tolerating him. But at the end of the day, one person can only really embody this evil, you know. And also, the whole transference sequence, I don't look at that as like Myers' soul going into Corey. It's more like the evil is like knows that Myers' body is dying and it needs to, the evil wants to survive, and so it sees a perfect host and it kind of like latches onto him partially, right? But Myers is like not letting go of what is left, and so that's why kind of you have this mutual like they're using each other, but at the end of the day that's not gonna last, right? Like the final sequence, like how contained it is with Laurie and Michael, the close quarters nature of it. It does come full circle with that sequence in the original where Myers comes into the kitchen, breaks in, and he stops and looks, and it's almost like if you look at that and you think about Halloween Ends, that's an interesting angle that you can look at things. You know, I like that I'm conflicted. I like they definitively kill him. This is called Halloween Ends, so it's supposed to be a definitive ending of this timeline, right? Doesn't mean this is an ending for Myers, clearly. They're potentially doing a show, so this isn't the end, right? But I would have liked them to, you know, continue this story, because it was really, I really dug Corey, really liked Corey and Allison's relationship, and I loved Jamie Lee Curtis is Laurie in this film. I think she did an awesome job. So this is top tier for me. Absolutely love Halloween Ends. Now, number one is a no-brainer. It's Halloween, 1978. Love this film. There's not really a whole lot I can say that hasn't been said. It's, in my opinion, perfect. Does it have flaws? Of course. You see the palm trees, nothing, you know. It's not perfect, but in my opinion, for me, it is perfect. I love Halloween. In my opinion, it's one of the reasons why we have slashers today. I mean, you know, you can say Black Christmas is really the pioneer, and it probably is, but this really put it on the map because, you know, I love Black Christmas. Love it. I mean, love that film. But for whatever reason, it's always kind of like on the back burner. I don't know why. It's so underrated, which I'll never understand, but Halloween really put it on the map, you know. Love Nick Castle. I think he's top tier Myers for me. I'm going to do a video on, you know, ranking my different, you know, rankings on the Myers portrayals and the masks as well. Love his portrayal of Myers. It's so good. He's so cat-like and svelte in a way where he just is a part of the elements. John Carpenter knocked it out of the park with this film. You know, it's so, from start to finish, perfect. And there's not really anything I'd say that would be a real complaint. I think it absolutely is still scary to this day, you know. I mean, when I was younger, this was the scariest film in the franchise for me, you know. It was scarier than all the sequels, so I watch this every single year. Absolutely love it. Top-notch Myers portrayal, in my opinion, and it's definitively number one for me, and I don't think that's ever going to change. Love Halloween Ends, but nothing's going to top the OG for me. Can't say that about every franchise, though, and we're going to get to some of these other franchises here, but I just wanted to start off with Halloween. Like I said, love this franchise. Love Michael Myers. Can't get enough of it. Can't wait for more. Let me know what you guys think. What are your different rankings? Let me know in the comments, and until then, I'll see you guys next time.